Shalom. This is Ron Warren with the Nuggets of the Torah. This week's teaching is the 7th Parsha of Deuteronomy, and it's the 50th Parsha of the Torah. We call it Tavo, which means when you come. Deuteronomy 26 verses 1 and 2 reads, "Then it shall be, when you enter the land which the Lord your God gives you as an inheritance, and you possess it and live in it, that you shall take some of the first of all the produce of the ground which you bring in from your land that the Lord your God gives you, and you shall put it in a basket, and you shall go to the place where the Lord your God chooses to establish his name." Chapter 26 begins a 4-chapter section that revolves around the blessings and the curses in the Torah. In this 4-section chapter of Deuteronomy, the spirit of the law, which is what James and Paul calls the true religion, is vital in carrying out the individual procedures and regulations already laid out. But there's an order here. The first step is we must enter the land. Now, I see this in a physical and a spiritual level. Many people believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but spiritually they have not entered their land because of ignorance of his ways. They may visit the land, but not live or take possession of it as the Lord commanded his people. The children of Israel who left Egypt never entered the land and journeyed 40 years in the wilderness. Why? It was because they did not follow the words on Mount Sinai and they stumbled over them. Moses is now teaching their children how to inherit the land. These instructions still speak to and guide us today. Those who believe in Yeshua have an inheritance in their land, and that gateway is through Yeshua. The second step is to take possession of the land. Now, this is done in our hearts first before possessing our land. And if we do not identify with the land, which is synonymous with the Torah, nor find our identity as part of Israel, how are we going to take possession of it? Like the land, the Torah and the people of Israel are all synonymous. Now, let us look at our own lives. It starts in our hearts first, beginning with the choice to forgive ourselves, our families, and others. Then, having a love for one another and offering sacrifices of praise and worship and thanksgiving to the Lord will be the natural response to the work that he has done in our lives. Then we enter into Yeshua's death, leading to his resurrection life and offering this life to others. That is taking possession of the land. The third step is when we live or settle in the land. One of the most important decisions a believer makes in their life is where they will live. Now, as a believer in Yeshua as the Messiah, we all have callings in our lives, and it is he who directs our path to bring us to where we, as individuals, will serve. The location of our dwelling is not the most important concept. The real point is not where we will dwell, rather, will we dwell, and if so, how will we dwell? You know, in the United States, we have 3 choices of dwelling places: hotels, rental units, and homes. Each of these types of residence accomplishes the same basic functions. However, each one requires a different level of dwelling and ownership in and from us. Let's take a look at the hotels first. We rent them for a short time. We know when we are arriving and we know exactly when we are leaving. We have almost no responsibility for them. We treat them in ways that would never think about treating the home where we grew up. Hotels are only temporary, and as we live in them, we do not dwell in them. Second are rental units. When we rent a home, we know when the lease is signed and we know exactly when the lease ends. We have a greater level of responsibility to the home, but we can make some personalizations to the home. But rentals have a limited responsibility. They also have a landlord that's responsible for repairs and damage. A rental has more investment, yet it is not a full commitment. Rentals are only temporary. We live in them, but we do not dwell in them. Finally, there's the homes. In the home, you, the homeowner, has assumed complete responsibility for it. If something breaks, it's up to you to fix it. If something gets dirty, it's up to you to clean it. You have no start and finish date nor lease. Homes are a full commitment. You both live and dwell in a home. And God is saying to Israel and us, do not just live in the land I am giving you, possess it and dwell there. The problem is, while most of us listen to the calling of God and move into the place where He has led us, we spiritually don't move into homes. We move into hotels or apartments. Let me explain. Some attend a congregation as if it was a hotel. They show up when they want, throw their stuff on the floor, make a mess with no intention of staying longer than checkout time, and then expect someone else to clean up their mess after they leave. Now, there's some who attend a congregation like an apartment. They pay what is required to live there. They may paint, decorate, and are responsible to clean up after themselves and perform minimal maintenance, but they are still living in their rental. But the commandment was not to live in a temporary dwelling. It was to possess and dwell. We must decide if we will buy a home and dwell in it. We must make the full investment with no escape plan or time limit. Ask yourself these questions. Where am I dwelling? Am I where God wants me to be? What is my reason for dwelling there? Am I hearing from God? How am I dwelling? Am I staying in a hotel, renting an apartment, or buying a home to dwell in? If you're attending a congregation as if it was a hotel or rental, it is time for you to decide to dwell or not dwell. Now is the season. Decide. Follow God and dwell with Him. It is only when we make the full investment we open ourselves up to the full benefit of ownership. And part of that benefit is belonging to something greater than ourselves. Shalom. Until next week's episode of the Nuggets of the Torah. And if this teaching has been a blessing to you, consider subscribing to this YouTube channel.